swearing a lot tonight.
Yeah, I've noticed that too.
And now for something completely
Well,
different.
obviously, sweetie, I didn't know we'd be burying the container.
What I do is I look a woman up and down and I say,
I'm coming to join you!
bitch!
Oh, that too far?
Oh, you want to get into things?
Well, I mean...
No. Let's get into things. Let's get real. Everybody, Bojack wants to get real. Cancel the bubble round, because we're getting real.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of No Time to Binge. Literally, and because we have awards now, the best show, the best podcast ever, I think, when it comes to pop culture, when it comes to comedy, when it comes to news,
Podcasts.
when it comes to podcasts, when it comes to B Highland. This is the best place to get all of that stuff. And if you don't know what this is a show where we watch the first episode of something and the last episode of something and really just make up a whole bunch of shit in the middle and try to figure out, is this show worth binging? Should we actually take the time to binge this show? And if you tuned in last week, we watched 2011's Thundercats, which was a boringly fine show. Now, before we get going, is what we're talking about this week, which is Santa Clarita Diet. Is that right?
No.
Santa Clarita Diet. I'm like,
Jesus.
what? Well, I don't. Yeah, whatever, dude. Whatever.
You should. Why don't you make up a haiku about it?
Make up a haiku. Santa Clarita.
Oh no.
No, not a haiku. Oh, what? One of those things. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Anyway, is that? Okay, it doesn't matter. Listen. So before we get going into this episode, we just been questions from some of our fans that watched last week's, and they're targeted questions. So if I'm going to ask these questions real fast, once again, if you haven't seen last episode on Thundercats, pause right now, watch that. That way you can hang out with these questions with us. This first question comes in from our Patreon member, Blue Shirt Flanagan, and he wants to know from Michael, in the episode where a tiger accidentally acid trips on that one flower, how did you feel that drug trip went as far as 2011's cartoon goes?
Well, I mean, the fact that she was completely nude during that whole trip did nothing for the not making me horny about her.
Yeah.
I would say that episode was very. I mean, she just imagined all the different sexual partners she's ever had, and it was a lot, and I was there for it.
Yeah.
I'm not one to slut shame. I'm a slut encourager.
Now, am I wrong that Tigra is the Lion-O's brother?
Yes.
I am wrong in that.
No.
Okay.
That's who it is.
Okay.
I think I was just thinking of a different episode. I was thinking of the different
The
episode
other acid trip.
where
this show
Chitara
gets
was
you
tripping.
not horny whatsoever.
I mean, Tiger was still, thinking about all of his sexual partners, and
Sure.
it didn't help to not make me horny for him. So, same answer, but I was thinking of a different episode.
Yeah, okay. That's a fairly decent answer. Now, Zombie, the question given to you is, in the one episode where Snarf gets that ancient curse and becomes the ever-living and gets all those abs and super ripped, how did you feel about sexy Snarf?
Honestly, it awakened something in me that I'm not sure I would have liked to have awakened, but now that it's here, there's nothing I can do about it. So I've embraced sexy Snarf, honestly, fully, entirely, with my body, yes, many times.
Perfect answer. Dylan, now, as we know, throughout the series, the demon priest Mum Ra assumes many forms, most notably Mum Ra the Ever-Living. Although there are a lot of forms Mum Ra takes, our one friend, Blue Shoot Nick, wants to know, who was your favorite form that Mum Ra took?
It's the episode when he turns into the hiccups and gives Lion-O the hiccups. You don't see shape shifting get so weird.
Mm.
Usually it's like, oh, I get buff, which, you know, sure, I'm into that, whatever. But turning into hiccups and then making someone else miserable is a pretty good idea.
Yeah, like you could obviously tell that came from Sword in a Stone, but it was a
Yeah.
clever way to do some animation. Yeah, so thank you guys very much for sending in some questions. There are a ton more, and you can find the rest of that in our 4-hour episode of this, which we go and put out on B's Instagram. What was that called? Your
Blackjacks for Jack Black.
Blackjacks for Jack Black. Checked it out for the whole 4-hour episode. We go over all the questions. Now, this week, we're going to go over Santa Clarita Diet, which obviously, came out in 2017 on Netflix, starring some beautiful people. And now, episode 1, I forgot Drew Barrymore's name. Drew Barrymore, Timothy Oliphant, some other good-looking people. Apparently, in the last episode, the Croatian...
Jump reading, it's great.
This is literally written 3 times in a row on IMDb. I just now saw that. I probably should have read this first. But yeah, listen, they used to be so normal, guys, and I just now know that. So quickly, Drew Barrymore. Solid name, dude. Didn't see it until right now. Good job.
We're off to a great start.
All right, episode 1, right? We get this set up. Quickly go over what happens in this thing.
So we have a married couple with a daughter. They're realtors. They pronounce it strange.
Yeah.
They live between a cop and a sheriff who hate each other.
Yeah.
They work at they seem moderately successful. He smokes weed and she's withdrawn. Mop-headed Nathan Fillion starts at their realty place, and he looks awful with that haircut. But he is putting the moves on Drew Barrymore like you wouldn't fucking believe. They try to sell a house, and she starts throwing up everywhere. She continues throwing up everywhere, and then seemingly dies in the bathroom. He goes in and doesn't quite sell that he found his wife's corpse in the bathroom of the house they're showing. That's okay. I like Timothy Oliphant a lot. She wakes up. She threw up an organ or like a meatball. It looks like a meatball.
Mm-hmm.
They leave. She doesn't have a heartbeat. She starts acting real weird. There's a lot of romantic advances in this episode.
Is that what you call that?
A lot of a lot of cunnilingus in this episode.
A lot of date 4 material.
Yeah. And Nathan Fillion, she goes to a bar with the waitress from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, who's playing the waitress from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They're crazy. She's dancing. Nathan Fillion hits on her. She doesn't come home. There's talk about a bar fight because Timothy Oliphant shows up. He wakes up. She's not there. She's kind of assaulted by Nathan Fillion, and then she bites his fingers off and eats him alive. And Timothy Oliphant shows up and is like,
as you do.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Yeah.
I encourage.
No, this is feminism. That
absolutely empowered.
Yeah, I encourage anyone who's getting attacked to bite off the fingers of the person attacking. And then just
listen, like, isn't that how it's done in nature? Like, if the male makes an advancement that the woman doesn't want, she eats him.
Yeah.
Circle of life.
Finger
I
first.
agree.
Beautiful.
And then Timothy Oliphant shows up and is like, what? And Drew Barrymore is like, huh? And then the credits roll. I think that's it.
That's pretty solid. Yeah. You did miss a pretty riveting plot point, which I was curious if this was going to sustain throughout. B, Timothy Oliphant's toaster. Can we talk about this for a second?
Right.
How do you feel about this toaster situation?
The toaster?
Yeah.
Honestly, I think he was a little too hard on that toaster. I think he really should have cut the toaster some slack. Honestly, it was doing its best, which is all we can ever do.
Yeah, I agree.
Honestly, the toaster abuse, I didn't appreciate it.
Yeah, it's out of nowhere.
It's also their own fault for buying a toaster oven to make toast in. Who does that?
What did you think was going to happen?
Yeah, really.
You think a toaster oven's
it was going to protest its own existence?
So going into this episode, Michael, after you watch this whole thing, Michael Zombie, Is this your kind of show? It's gory. It's funny. Timothy Oliphant.
Yeah. Oh, and I really appreciated the amount of shirtless Tim Oliphant that was in here. And yeah, the gore I think could have gone a little bit further. I would have liked to see a little bit more just all around gore. I did appreciate Drew Barrymore having Tim Oliphant like perform oral on him like a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Not only because I would like to be in either one of those positions, but also just because get it, girl.
Yeah, honestly, I couldn't have said it better myself. Get it, girl. All right, so now we're going to shoot over to season 3, episode 10, which is called The Cult of Sheila. Now, here's what I wrote for this. As the episode begins, the Hammonds are having their realty. Yeah, why do they say it weird? Is it because they're real? Because that, I don't know. Whatever, in California.
Zombies.
Yeah, true. Having their realty launch party, which takes an icky turn when Poplovic shows up. He stumbles across the kill den, and it's safe to say he's pretty damn excited by what he sees in the freezer. Earlier in the season, Sheila proposes that Joel consider turning up so they could spend eternity together because he obviously wanted to become a zombie at some point. Now, the idea of forever doesn't sound too appealing to Joel, and we don't blame the guy. Being immortal sounds cool and all, but it might be a bit too much. Whenever Joel decides later, he and Sheila get into a fight, and it's not looking too great. At the same time, Ron shows up at the party and reveals that he turned 2 people who are going to be eating spree all over the town. And of course they are. That's why Sheila and Joel were trying to stop, I guess, him from doing something. While Poplovic is roaming around the Hammonds' home, he runs sometimes. Oh yeah, sorry. He runs into Joel and kidnaps him. It turns out he thinks Joel is an undead guy and is surprised to see that he bleeds. Now, sorry, Poplovic, you got the wrong person. Ha ha ha. He soon learns that it's Sheila that is undead and immediately attacks her when he shows up to save Joel. Now, when Sheila trapped by a metal rod through her body and Joel tied up, it's fortunate that Tommy, Ron, and Jean show up to rescue them. And just like that, they take down Poplovic and they make their escape. Sheila and Joel come home and learn that Abby and Eric were dealing with their own mess, Poplovic's men, who are now undead as well, showing up to cause trouble. But with Abby's newfound badassness, she manages to kill both of them and ends up cuddling with Eric. Finally, and that's what we've been waiting for to happen the whole season. In the final moments of Santa Clarita Diet ever, Joel reveals that he is ready to be turned by Sheila, and he wants to spend forever with her and can't imagine doing anything else. But before Sheila can do anything, Mr. Balllegs jumps up on Joel's shoulder, goes into his ear, and kills him. Then Sheila, with only one choice left, bites him. Moments after her bite, Joel opens his eyes and says hi, and then scene cuts to black. And this is literally the moment Santa Clarita Diet fans have been waiting for, and we'll never see where the story could have gone from there. I found that on a fan site, and I didn't read that till right now. But I probably wrote that. I probably wrote that myself. It sounds like my humor. Okay, so quickly summing this up. Obviously, the Croatian doctor from ER, he finds his way to get the black goo out of people because he can create some device or something. What was it that he could create?
I think it was a cosmetic.
It's an anti-aging thing.
Oh, okay. An anti-aging thing, right. And then you have Ethan Embry, and then I guess some old zombie lady, and who else?
Randy from My Name is Earl.
No, that's Ethan Embry.
Oh.
And then you have the old zombie. Oh, and then another zombie, the bald zombie guy who's there. And then they save people somehow. And then Timothy Oliphant shoots the Croatian doctor from ER in the back of the head. And that's cool. Also, I really like the kid from Meet the Millers or Wet Hot, the series, like the next door neighbor kid.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I think he's really cool in this.
He's fine.
I like him as an actor. But anyway, I guess it's a pretty fine show. Now, as far as a finale goes, Zombie, what did you think about this as a finale of a season?
Yeah, no, I definitely think it was a show, truly. I mean, honestly, if I had been watching this as it was coming out, I guess I would be like not that disappointed with the ending personally. Yeah, it's got like a hook, like, oh, it could continue, could not, or we could just assume they're both zombies. They're both just living their life. They're both selling houses regularly, and it goes from there. They're undead together forever, and I would consider that a happy ending, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think I could be satisfied.
Would you have preferred if Timothy Oliphant stayed in the position where he just said "mommy"?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh,
I think that honestly, for the rest of forever, could be the last thing that he says. Just mommy. That's his only word.
All right. Now let's get into some speculation to see if this show is really worth people taking the time to binge. As we know, this show is about zombies and I guess the drought of California, as well as just the life of being a realtor. Now, with all those things comes death, right? And dismemberment. And we've seen these 2 episodes. There's some death going on here. Now in the last episode, we saw, well, we didn't see, but we heard somebody get punctured and then they splatter blood everywhere, which would probably be cool looking if we did see it. But throughout the 3 seasons, we did see a lot of horrific deaths. Michael Zombie, of all the deaths we saw, what was your favorite death?
Well, just side note here, the bald zombie guy who I thought I knew from something, I absolutely do not, but he is in a show called Starfuckers, and I think that's the best show for the best name for a show I've ever heard. Anyway,
maybe a later episode of No Time to Binge.
The best death, I think, was when the sheriff guy, it had nothing to do with Drew Barrymore. The sheriff didn't like the cop so much that he ended up making up a break-in just so that he could shoot him, and then like he was like climbing in the window he was making noises. The cop was making all sorts of noises. The sheriff thought he was going to help him. And then the cop shot him out the window. He splattered onto the front yard. And then he just took the trowel that he was using to build the wall in the backyard and just went to town on his chest and then ate his heart raw. Even though he wasn't a zombie either. I like human on human realistic violence.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the choreography in that was stunning. Zombie, same question. Favorite death?
So my favorite death was actually when Jack Black made a guest appearance. And he actually showed up, and it turns out he was like the original zombie. He was like the king zombie. And we got to watch him. We got to like watch him like partially devour like Nathan Fillion's corpse, but then like spit it all back up just for funsies. I thought that was really violent and really horrible, and I loved it.
Yeah, it was definitely it was filthy, is what it was. I mean, there's really no other way to say it. It was filthy. Drew Barrymore. Same question. That's you.
Yeah, no, I know. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Thanks for the reminder. No, my favorite was when they did the parallel episode with the storyline in the background. You know, they do that sometimes in shows where the background characters kind of persist throughout, and you slowly see this person just get dragged behind a bus for like the entirety of the episode. And they comment on the bus because they can never catch it. They're like, where are the stops? Like, and then you hear the person faintly just going, and then, you know, next scene, a few scenes later, the bus is in the background, person's getting behind it. You find out they're a zombie later, so it's not so unrealistic, but I just really enjoyed, the very slow whittling down in the background. It's a nice little like background treat for people who pay attention.
Yeah, no, I agree. I never thought I wanted to see a zombie bus until they pulled that off in this, which is, you know, clever, I'll say. Clever. if not topical. Now, as we know, the director of this, the showrunner and director of this, is a huge JoJo fan, and there's many references to JoJo throughout this. And if you have a keen eye, you can spot a couple. Drew Barrymore, did you happen to spot any JoJo references?
The same episode with the bus, when the bus has the stand. Yeah, just really interesting to see the bus like flex and do the glamour pose, and then the little menace symbol shows up, and then the bigger bus shows up behind it as a ghost, and they, deal with it in the background. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
Zombie. Now, being the
no.
you're the JoJo expert here.
Yeah, no. If you actually look in episode, I want to say it was season 2, episode 25-ish, I think. If you'll notice, there's actually in one of the houses that they're showing, it is the stone mask, and you find out later that the owner of that house is actually a vampire, and they started the zombie outbreak. Yeah, it was just a fun little bit of background lore there.
So cool. So cool.
Yeah.
Michael Zombie, I know you've been doing your research on JoJo recently. What'd you find out in this season?
Well, I think my favorite one was the one where Nathan Fillion, after he becomes a zombie, but before he's just a head, he is riding on the roof of a car, and he kills the person who is driving the car. So the car is careening out of nowhere. Right before the car hits the telephone pole, he rips off his shirt. He has like 70 abs. And then the car hits the pole, and he does the flip, and then he lands, and then he does the pose, and then the gleam goes off of his teeth. Yeah, I think that was my favorite one, where they actually made Nathan Fillion into Joestar.
Versatile actor. The guy can literally do anything.
Oh yeah.
Now, as Zombie brought up, they talked about vampires. We know this is mostly zombies. So what we get in the middle of the second season is that this is a glimpse of building up a dark universe of all the Universal monsters. And then they go ham on it in the end of second season, the beginning of third season. Michael, what was your favorite inclusion of the Universal monsters?
Well, I really liked how they set up the character of Ramona in the drugstore, talking to Tim Oliphant about, I forget. He's looking at toasters, and he's also looking at medicine at some point. And you think she's just like this innocent little weird girl. Ends up, she's the leader of the vampires. She's making Dracula her bitch. She's, taking his head and putting it down in between her legs whenever she feels like it. That happens really sort of a lot in this. And they only really graphically show it a couple of times, which I think was the right decision. I think if it was too much, it would have been overkill. But yeah, I did enjoy how she took Dracula and sort of did what she wanted with him. He didn't seem to mind though.
Drew, you wanted to add on to that?
I can I answer the question and kind of add on to it in that way? Yeah.
Please do.
It's the episode where they sell the house to Frankenstein and his bride. Frankenstein's monster and his bride. And they, Timothy Oliphant and Drew Barrymore leave, and Frankenstein and his bride look at each other and they're like, yeah, right here? Yeah, all right. And then she starts using a seam stripper on her neck, and then it cuts to black. Yeah. It's a little more overt, but laying the seeds for something later.
Sex. Zombie, same question.
Okay, so what was the question?
The favorite usage of a Universal monster for the dark universe.
Right. Okay, so all right. So do you remember when they had like that episode? It had absolutely nothing to do with the main plot. In fact, it was like down in Florida, in like a swamp area.
Mhm.
And it's like Creature of the Black Lagoon is trying to sell like swap houses, and then like Shrek makes an appearance. I love that episode. It had absolutely nothing to do with the main plot, but it was my absolute favorite. I loved Shrek and Fiona house hunting for like a little shack in the swamp. I thought it was brilliant. It was very funny. Donkey was there a little bit. It was great.
Yeah, I really wish they would have got the rights to the Smash Mouth song though, because that cover it just did not do it.
They had such a good opportunity for that. Like, could have just like at the very, very end, instead of like a credits, it's just like the ending of Shrek.
Yeah, Napalm Death was a very strange decision for the cover band for that Smash Mouth song.
It was weird.
Yeah,
I mean, it was way better, but it just didn't fit the tone.
Yeah, I mean, the word "somebody" doesn't sound the same in Icelandic, so I mean, no one's gonna start singing along to this. Now, Drew Barrymore, as we know, the character doesn't want to kill people. They don't want to eat humans and do some murders a lot. So most of what happens at the end of first season is this weird recipe making to make sure they can have blood but not also murder people, which was weird because there was a lot of cooking in this show, especially at the end of season 1. What was your favorite at least one of your favorite like recipes they concocted with blood?
When they make the Jello mold, but it's specifically in the shape of like the Disney cruise ship. I mean, a little bit of cross promotion is kind of irritating, but the craftsmanship that went into that with the little square pieces of cheese for the windows, and they had the little Mickey Mouse made out of sugar on the front. And as you look, you can see inside it gets a little graphic. But just the attention to detail, and I mean, they must have made that in real life, right? Like, I mean, I suppose that might have been a reason Netflix canceled it, because the food budget was getting so high.
Yeah.
So, and then you had the other Jello molds, which, I mean, sure, but whatever. The cruise ship was really the cool one.
That's true. I've never seen so much power conolingus on Jello before.
Yeah.
Zombie, same question. Favorite blood recipe that you saw them do?
Okay, so maybe this is a little bit predictable, but remember when they were like grilling and you think they're hot dogs and they turn them over and it's actually like phalluses? I loved that. I thought that was very creative, and they looked really realistic. I mean, I gotta hand it to them. It was almost like they actually just started cutting dicks off and grilling them up.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And the chewing like tensity of them, I'm like, that has to be what a dick would feel like if you.
I would imagine.
Yeah, I think so.
You have to.
I don't know. I don't eat penis, but yeah,
you have to slow cook a penis, or else it gets really tough.
Yeah, I heard it can get like really like rubbery and kind of gross.
If you cook it low and slow, it breaks down all of those. It breaks down all those proteins and just
that was like one of the longer episodes too. They did like a full like tutorial on it as well.
Yeah,
it's fascinating.
Yeah, they did that tutorial, but it was all wrong.
Yeah, that's true. But honestly, a good dry rub and a nice grilling.
It's like flank steak. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a good octopus tentacle. Michael, how about you? Or is that your answer?
I wouldn't say it's a recipe per se, but I did like that they went sort of lighthearted and just took the blood bags and Capri Sunned the straw right into them.
Classic.
The vampires did that as well. For some reason, the Frankensteins did it. I didn't quite understand, but when they were having that party right before the orgy, I mean, the sex in this is ridiculous, but they were having that sort of warm-up party where everybody was just hanging out and eating and drinking, but then they just had that fun thing where they were all just sitting around slurping on their blood bag Capri Suns, and I just thought that was fun.
Yeah, just hanging out. Like, it's like, hey, this is like me in high school, just, obviously with less Capri Suns. Now, Dylan, in the final episode, we saw Drew Barrymore multiple times try to jokingly bribe people. Once with what was said to be $200, it really looked like $60 for a new nose, and then at the end it was $40 for a funeral, which I don't know whose market this is, but that is not how much a funeral cost. Which obviously it turns out that this is a running gag throughout the whole season or series. What was one of your favorite bribes that Drew Barrymore had to pull off?
It's when she offers the werewolf the peanut butter.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're talking about the sex stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean,
you want to talk about power conolingus.
Right. I don't need to go super into it, but I mean,
yeah,
that was,
there you go.
That was one of those times. That was one of those times that it got really graphic.
Well, this was one of the earlier Netflix shows, wasn't it? And they were really leaning into we don't have to watch our content.
Yeah.
So I mean,
and it is honestly, it was an odd choice that I saw. It was an odd choice of her looking at this and being like, "This is creamy peanut butter. I know you don't want this." And then she yelled for Oliphant in the next room, like, "Bring me that crunchy shit." And then it was like, "This is ASMR werewolf power conolingus."
It was the real. The bribe itself was interesting, but it was the reveal that it was the school's principal as the werewolf that I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
Straight A's.
Yeah. But it's just the fact that they got Drew Barrymore to actually like smear that peanut butter all over herself like that before letting that, I don't know if that was a real werewolf or if it was just like a big well-trained dog. But like it was, I was a little bit uncomfortable for as long as that scene was.
Apparently that was all CGI, and they had Andy Serkis come in and actually do the mocap for that. So, and he is allergic to peanuts. So as a method actor, he's like, well, this werewolf is not allergic to peanuts. I no longer can be allergic to peanuts.
He'll do anything for that Best Actor award.
I tell you, especially if that guy could be on all fours at any time. Zombie, how about you? Same question, which was...
Yes, please remind me.
Yeah, please.
Favorite bribe. I'm sorry.
Favorite bribe that Drew Barrymore has to pull off.
Okay, so my favorite bribe was actually when Drew Barrymore had to like bribe her way into like the blood bank. Not for herself though. She was doing like a housewarming party for the vampire that she sold she was like trying to sell a house to another family of vampires, and she couldn't she had to provide wine, but like it couldn't just be like any old blood. She couldn't do like cow's blood. It had to be like human blood because she's got to offer the fancy shit, right? Because it was a big client. I loved that when she had to like bribe her way in by flashing her titties. It was great. Also very graphic.
Yeah.
I appreciated it.
Such a weird bribe because you really can't take anything away with you. It just I just saw that. That's nice.
Take only pictures. You know what they say.
That's it. They're worth 1,000 words. Oh yeah, forgot the rest of that one. Michael Zombie, same question. Bribe City.
I think it was funny that time that Drew Barrymore was, she was caught. They knew that she was murdering people and she was running. And then she ran into that guy on the street. And then she got her wallet out and she goes, shit, I only have Canadian money. Why do I have Canadian money at all? And then she looks up and it was Geddy Lee that she ran into. And she's like, oh, cool. I mean, he needs Canadian money. I mean, so, she gives him the 120 Canadian or whatever. And then he's like, oh, thanks. I can buy a new base with this. And then she just runs away.
Yeah, which is weird because it's not really a bribe. It's more of just, here's some money. But it kind of worked the same because she got a song out of it. So that worked out.
They were just so like, they were just doing it so much at that point that it was just like implied that if she wouldn't have given him the bribe, he would have, stopped her or, held her back from what she was doing.
Yeah. And I mean, all the reverse conolingus that they were getting, it's just, obviously that's why he took that money.
Reverse?
It was a reverse. Yeah. I saw that on Instagram. Now, Dylan, and I don't know where it was, but one of the people that she was trying to sell a house to finds out that she could kill people and could also offer some blood. And they thought for some reason, as we remember in this episode, I'm sure why I'm explaining so much of this, but
for the audience.
and they're like, yeah, and if you haven't seen this episode, they're like, I feel that rich people blood would taste better. So can you please bring me some of rich people blood? And they gave Drew Barrymore a list of at least 10 celebrities. Which was a celebrity that you were not expecting to be on that list? Because their blood would taste bad.
Who's the guy who does Andrew Dice Clay? That's it. Yeah. Talk about a guy who hasn't been relevant since he was sampled for that one song.
Stars Born.
I think so. Shallow, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. With the Lady Gaga version. Yeah.
Yep.
No. I mean, I know he does cameos, and I know he's still. I'm glad we got that on camera. Anyway, that's definitely the first time that's happened tonight, and it's never happened before.
Never.
Anyway, no. The Andrew.
There we go.
What did he? He didn't say "bam." That was.
That was
Bam.
Emerald Lagasse.
That was Ben Marcher.
Oh, he did the like that's him.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, he was like, "Hey, yo, oh, way,
hey, Andrew Dice Clay, whoa,
Yeah.
hey."
And then she gets the. I mean, I'm glad he has a good sense of humor about himself because she gets the blood back to the people who want it, and they're like, "This tastes like shit. This tastes like Marlboro and like Tabasco sauce. Like, oh my god."
Yeah.
So it's nice to see, even though he's kind of a raging douchebag, it's nice to see he has a sense of humor about himself.
Yeah, I agree. Zombie, of all the list of celebrities, which ones you thought would taste the worst?
So it kind of surprised me how political this one got, right? So like I remember when like Drew Barrymore was like jokingly like, haha, eat the rich, right? Which is interesting because she's like a realtor for like clearly very wealthy people. And then she decides, you know what, actually I think I am gonna eat the rich, and she like ate Elon Musk, and it was like very, very slow and very like he was screaming a lot because she started at the toes.
Yeah.
And honestly I found it quite delightful.
And
I was a little
could see
jealous
that
because
she was
I
not
also have
enjoying it.
fantasized about starting at the toes.
No,
So
and
fetish thing.
yeah, and she can definitely bite through a toe bone like with
Mhm.
ease. So her jaw strength is just insane.
Oh yeah.
Michael
No,
Zombie.
she was enjoying it.
Yeah.
She was enjoying doing it, but she was
Yeah.
like mostly
didn't like the
spitting out
taste.
the meat because
Yeah.
it looked like he tasted terrible.
Yeah,
Oh,
it looked like he would taste like what I think a kangaroo would taste like.
Yeah.
Just stringy for some reason. Just
Alright.
Very
stringy and
stringy.
kind of like dirt.
Dirty,
Michael Zombie, same question. Of the list of
Um,
celebrities, who do you think would taste the worst?
I think the one that would taste the worst would probably have been Kid Rock.
Oh god, dude.
Yeah.
He did not have quite as much of a sense of humor as the Dice Man did.
Mine too, actually, which is really weird.
But I think it was funny because they got Kid Rock to do the cameo in the show, but I guess from what I read, he didn't want to come back like Andrew Dice Clay did, and do a funny little thing. So they were just like talking about how his blood just tasted like sweat, light beer, and piss. And honestly, when I look at Kid Rock, that's what I feel like he smells, and probably what his blood tastes like.
Yeah. I thought that they were kind of gonna go with a route of like, oh, let's use Kid Rock's blood as like an energy drink, maybe to kind of give us like a boost of like either some old cocaine or whatever Axe body spray does if you kind of ingest it. But no, apparently
Or some
it
new
was
cocaine.
Yeah, or new cocaine. But no, it just makes you lethargic, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Now Dylan, we saw in the last episode the evolution of that weird meatball bloody thing, and it had legs and stuff, which is odd because as you start binging this season, it's like, oh, this isn't the first bloody pet that they've had. I would have thought that after seeing that in the last episode. But of all the weird bloody pets, or I guess pet adjacent, and we'll get to that soon, what was the one you found the most disturbing?
It's the one when they only have it for 2 episodes, but it's the talking toaster oven that Timothy Oliphant buys when he attempts to replace the, he goes out and he buys a new one. And the one he gets from that weird kid doing like the mad science in the garage across the way. And it keeps begging for human flesh, and it keeps begging in this really weird, like, it's not like, please give me food, I'm hungry. It's more like needly. And really just made my skin crawl. And there's no gore to it. They don't do anything like, they don't cook anybody in it. They don't feed anybody to it. They don't do anything with it. But the way it kept asking for stuff, I'm like, there is something unsettling about this.
Yep. No, I completely agree.
And then it's like, listen, if you guys aren't going to do it for me, I'm not going to do it for you. I'm going to leave. And then it just scoots off down the road. And I'm like, thank God. They must have felt like it wasn't working.
Yeah, that was pretty disturbing. Michael Zombie, same question.
Yeah, I was wondering if I was going to talk about this, but the weasels that the Frankenstein skinned to use as the condoms, because they, for some reason, they needed to use the weasel skins for condoms. But then they just took the skinned weasels and just threw them into a pile. And then when Drew Barrymore saw the pile, she just like took little nibbles out of each of them. And then they had like the little farm of skinless weasels. They got a little bit more violent than you would think. They did eat that one neighborhood child, and that's when they needed to get rid of the weasels. But I thought it was fun because for like 4 episodes, it was just like strangely very cute skinless weasels just running around and frolicking and having a good time. And then they just had one slip up. They just ate one kid, and all of a sudden now we got to get rid of these weasels. And they also never explained why the Frankensteins couldn't just wash out the one weasel skin that they already had.
Yeah. I mean, you can obviously reuse it. Like, what are you going to...
Yeah, I mean, it's a skin.
It's just a skin. Zombie, most disturbing pet or pet adjacent?
All right, so this one's kind of pet adjacent, but like, Nathan Fillion's zombified head, right?
Do I?
There was like that string of episodes where he was like into pet play for some reason. You remember that one? And he was like just like barking, and like they had to like collar him, but it was really hard because he didn't really have much of a neck, so it like kept falling off. But they kept trying for him because like this was his thing, and like, yes, Drew Barrymore like ate him, and they felt bad. So yeah, no, when he was like going through his pet play phase, it was kind of weird that he was like kind of trying to force everyone into his kinks, but yeah, I thought it was fun.
Yeah, I mean, Nathan Fillion's going to do what Nathan Fillion do.
Exactly.
And when Jack Black ate Nathan Fillion's body, and then spit it all back out, and they used it as
Nathan
like
Fillion's head was right there watching the whole thing.
Yeah, and then they used the gunk that he spit out like Play-Doh and like tried to make a dog body for him.
Oh yeah.
It never quite worked, but it was fun to watch them try.
It's the thought that counted.
And then after a while they just made spaghetti out of it.
Yeah.
That was the last episode before they got their new prop master, and you can really kind of tell.
Yeah, I mean, what like when they kept breaking his toes off, it's like, well, these look like fake toes. But then when they kept like sucking on him to try to like turn him on with his own toes, it's like, I wish these look like real toes because I could be turned on here, but I'm just not.
Yeah.
Look like hot dogs.
Yeah. Now I'm surprised none of you mentioned that weird like in that one episode where like that UPS driver came, but like a little bit too late at nighttime, and she just kind of took his skin off and then had his skin sitting there, and then they put like a beret on it, and they're like, well, let's just go to him for like some kind of sham wow needs. I thought that was pretty odd. And I'm like, I guess I missed an episode because I don't fully understand this. Now the big I guess the big MacGuffin of season 3 is this necro fluid, right? This black goo that they get out of zombies to make I guess makeup or cosmetics. Now that started at the beginning. Yeah. It's crazy. Now that started at the beginning of season 3, and obviously each season had its own MacGuffin. What was one of your favorite MacGuffins other than this necro fluid? I'm going to start with Michael Zombie because I know he's been itching to talk about this one.
Well, I already talked about it a little bit. It was the green goop that they wrung out of the weasel skins after they were finished with them.
Yeah.
And that was sold as an aphrodisiac, and it didn't turn anyone on. But they kept saying, no, this is going to work. This is going to work. This is Frankenstein cum. Of course it's going to work. But I don't think they realize that the Frankenstein cum isn't alive anymore. It's like stitched together from different sperms, and they never quite work the way that they're supposed to. And the two different balls that they get mixed up in, it just doesn't, it never but they kept going at it. It was like throughout almost the entire series, it was just that one guy just trying to get this Frankenstein cum aphrodisiac to work.
Right. I thought the weird part about that was they never really told anyone how to make it work either. They just sold this semen, and they're like, well, do I rub this on my stuff? Is this a suppository? Do I drink this? Why is there an eyedropper with this? I don't understand anything. So yeah,
I think they were supposed to drop it into their eyes, but nobody ever figured it out.
Yeah.
Everybody was trying to put it up their butts.
Well, apparently from behind the scenes, it was supposed to be an eardropper, like when you have swimmer's ear. But no one tried that, and then a couple scenes got deleted, and they kind of lost that whole plot line.
Is that why ball legs or whatever it is climbs into his ear at the end? Because
exactly
that's what produces it, and then
because they're like, well, because this is where the Frankenstein semen is supposed to go, and he's like, well, I'm the closest thing to some kind of stitched together muck, so I'll just pop in there. Zombie, same question.
Okay, so Jack Black's zombie spit. Absolutely my favorite. They don't really know what it does, but they assume that it cures cancer, so they tried to like sell it as like a cancer cure. Only it didn't actually work. It just made people like really, 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 really sick. But at least they weren't thinking about their cancer. And that was the takeaway of the whole episode. And like honestly, I think it really wrapped up season 2 really well. It was great.
Agree. Yeah. And it really shows Jack Black's power of salesmanship, because since Drew Barrymore had so much of this extra spit, she was just giving it away with her sandwiches on the realty tours, which
they made it look delicious too.
Yeah.
I did like how they bottled it up and called it Rika Giga Goo.
No.
Rika Giga Goo. That's great. Drew Barrymore, same question. MacGuffin City, where are we at?
It's funny that I like that you introed this question with that Michael's been itching to do it. It's when they are looking for Pope Benedict's finger bone, which of course they very clearly spent some travel budget to go to Rome, the Vatican, because you're a zombie, you can't feel pain, but that means you can't scratch your itches, and they're like, the only thing that can scratch a zombie's itch is the bone of the Pope's finger. They're like, they try to ignore it for a while, and then the climax of season 2 is they go to Rome and they have to chop the tip off Benedict's finger.
Yeah.
I just really like the idea of using that's kind of a neat relic. Yeah.
No, I agree. And especially when you see a title, Searching for Rome Bone, you're like, oh, this is
Mhm.
going to be a sex heavy episode.
Yeah.
Not pretty gross. Old man fingery gross.
Mhm.
Okay. I think that's all the questions that I have. Does anybody else have any?
The only sexual thing was that Drew Barrymore did try to scratch that itch inside of her vagina with that finger.
Yeah. Of course, when you use a Pope's finger bone like that, it immediately vaporizes from the sin. So that's how you get it out of the way so that it doesn't impact season 3 too badly.
Yeah. And there's really no
It
thought
probably
of
would have worked better if she hadn't have done that first. They went through a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking for that Rome bone. I agree. So listen, I appreciate all of you guys putting up with my questions. I think that I've come to my consensus that this is probably not a show that I'm going to make some time to binge. There's a whole lot of other stuff going on. And although this sounds gory and sexy as all hell, I'm not really sure if I'm going to take any time. But I would like to know what you guys think. Zombie, based on what you've seen and heard, would you make some time to binge Santa Clarita Diet?
I'm not gonna binge it. I am gonna like selectively watch the episodes with Jack Black spitting in people's mouth. Those are my absolute favorites. Like the show had some like really like weird sex scenes. So I may give those like another watch or two, but like just for research purposes, honestly.
Yeah, I've never seen the spitting in somebody's mouth from that point of view, where somebody wants to spit and he just keeps sucking it back up, and I go, "Oh, give it to me," and he's like,
"Yeah,
yeah." It's real weird.
He was teasing, and I mean, like, I'm not gonna say I'm like into that, but like,
I mean, I'm not into that now.
Yeah, no, whatever. It's fine.
Michael Zombie, will you make time to binge watch this show?
B kind of summed it up. I don't think there's any reason to binge this entire thing again, but there are certain episodes, and I remember the titles, and I remember the season and the episode numbers where they do get real graphic with the sex scenes, and any of the ones where you see Tim Oliphant's dick. It's
well, I mean, speaking of which, while we're on the subject, what was one of your favorite titles?
Well, that one that was just called "This is the first one with Tim Oliphant's dick." I was like,
it was sexy.
I'm like, now we're getting there. And that one was the first time that we saw Tim Oliphant's dick, but I think we saw the least amount in that episode. So it's probably not the one I'm going to be watching. There was that one episode that was just after he kills his first victim. There's an episode that's kind of just him in the shower for the entire half an hour, just
there's so
washing
much blood
himself,
on him. And so much blood.
Yeah, and
it's gotta get clean.
The amount of taint shots in that was really doing it for me.
Yeah, a real symmetrical taint. From what I found out, Oliphant.
One of the best taints I've ever seen.
Very symmetrical, and that's how you can really describe beauty. I think symmetry. Dylan, Drew Barrymore, will you make some time to binge this?
No, I mean, it's not bad, and it's I don't think I like the comedy that much in this show. There's something about it. It's a little too broad. It's a little too I don't want to say obvious, but I don't know. It just didn't really click with me. I'll find a YouTube compilation, or I guess Vimeo compilation, because YouTube would probably not let you put it up there, of all the good parts. I just don't have the time to go through and watch this entire thing. I don't think it would be worth it for me.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, Oliphant is like, he is just a beast of a man, and just gorgeous to look at, taint and everything else. But I will say that everything else I've seen him in, I've liked him a lot better than this. He seems to have an odd timing to the jokes, and it is a weird style of humor.
There's better Oliphant taint in Mandalorian.
Oh boy, and
Yeah.
Deadwood. You want some?
Yeah.
I was gonna
If-
say Deadwood. You want to talk about
An ironic
you wanna-
title if ever I've heard one.
Yeah, I tell you, that's the opposite of what happens when you see that filthy taint. Not Deadwood. Okay, so listen, guys, let us know what you think about Santa Clarita Diet and if we should make time to binge this. It seems from what we can remember, probably not. Selective episodes, if anything, mostly for Oliphant and or the taint of said font. Okay, so let us know in the comments or hit up text Dylan, let him know what you think about this show, because he's gonna secretly watch this, not tell anybody. Now, next episode though, I may or may not be hosting. I have no idea. But the important thing is we're gonna be talking about a good show. We're gonna be talking about the gorgeous, the incomparable Gem and the Holograms, the 80s cartoon. Now, it turns out you can find this on Tubi for free, and I guess there's 3 seasons of this.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be watching the very first and very last episode of Gem and the Holograms, the original series, and let you guys know if there should be or should not be time to binge this. Before we get out of here, is there anything else that we should talk about Santa Clarita Diet or anything? No. I didn't think so.
We talked about all
No,
the sexy stuff, but
We did a
Yeah.
lot of sex, yeah.
the sexy
Okay.
stuff is
That's
really
all there
because
is.
yeah, I think Dylan was right about the comedy. It's pretty lame.
Yeah, pretty lame.
And you would think that they would have had a little bit harder hitting comedy in a show with that much like nudity and gore and unsimulated sex scenes.
Yeah.
But
No.
hey, I guess you gotta
Pick and choose.
cut corners somewhere.
Yeah, cutting corners.
If secondhand embarrassment is your thing, great. This is definitely the show for you.
yeah.
Not so
Love-
much for me.
Love that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The beautiful zombie. Where can people hear your voice? People find you, etc., etc.
So you can find me on my shows. Is this podcast a JoJo reference and Deep Lore? You can follow. You can follow my Twitter, Queen Beth Evie. I have an Instagram, Jack Blacks for Jack Black, or I'm sorry, Black Jacks for Jack Black.
There it is.
One of those two. I've had a few of these. You could also follow my cosplay Instagram. It's b.bethy. And
Beautiful.
that's all. That's everything I got. I don't
Love
have
it.
more.
Love it. Blackjacks for Jack Black. That's us. Zombie. Where you at, my boy?
Oh, you talking to me?
Sorry, Michael.
You said zombie. I was like,
It's
well,
pronounced
that's-
zombie. Come on.
Oh, it's zombie? Oh.
yeah.
Well, I didn't
Not
watch
corrected you.
I didn't watch season 2. I didn't get the joke.
Listen to Jack Billings Presents Haunted Apartment Complex on the Podmoth Network. You can also follow us on Instagram at Jack Billings Presents. We have little funny clips of the episodes, and we also have, unlike some people on Instagram, we actually make funny memes and post them up. Yeah, follow me on Twitter at my neighbor MICH1.
Thank you, all shades. Let's see, Drew Barrymore. Hit me with your deets.
Yeah, you can follow me at Vorpal_words on everything for tabletop gaming and writing stuff. But I'm also on all the Some Nobody stuff with Zach. I show up and he puts all of the background effort in for all the art and stuff like that. And the openings and stuff like that. I'm here. I talk sometimes on Twitching Upstream, Talking Upstream. This show, award-winning PowerPoint Showdown. I shouldn't.
You're swearing a lot tonight.
Yeah, I've noticed that too.
And now for something completely
Well,
different.
obviously, sweetie, I didn't know we'd be burying the container.
What I do is I look a woman up and down and I say,
I'm coming to join you!
bitch!
Oh, that too far?
Oh, you want want to get into things?
Well, I mean,
No. Let's get into things. Let's get real. Everybody, BoJack wants to get real. Cancel the bubble round, because we're getting real.
Eric! I did it! Abby Hammond taking charge, kicking ass, and talking to nobody. Nobody's here.